In the world of tech, there are some stories that are just epic, and this is one of them. It's the story of a company that didn't just sell a product, it literally defined an entire era of how we communicate. A brand so powerful it was the ultimate status symbol, from presidents to pop stars, only to watch its entire empire just crumble. So let's get into it. The incredible rise and the spectacular fall of BlackBerry. But to really get why the fall was so shocking, you first have to understand the obsession. This device was so addictive, so central to our lives, that its nickname was Crackberry. And that nickname became so common, it was literally the word of the year. This thing was more than a phone. It was this constant, buzzing connection to everything and everyone, and we just could not put it down. And look, this wasn't just for some stuffy executives in boardrooms. No way. This was a cultural phenomenon. Everyone who was anyone had to have one. When Barack Obama got to the White House, he famously fought tooth and nail just to keep his BlackBerry. That tells you everything you need to know about how essential this device was to the most powerful people on the planet. And all that cultural power? It translated directly into market dominance. We're talking about total domination. At its absolute peak in 2010, BlackBerry didn't just have a slice of the pie. It owned over half of the entire US smartphone market. Think about that for a second. 50%. Every other phone out there was just fighting for the scraps. So, that's the big question, right? How does a company with that much power, that much loyalty, and a product that literally defined the category just vanish? How does it get left so far behind? Well, that's the mystery we're going to solve. To understand the fall, we got to start with the rise. So let's rewind a bit and see how a couple of engineers built an entire empire basically on our thumbs. And man, when they took off fast. It started out as a pager with a keyboard in '96. Then in '99, the first official BlackBerry drops with mobile email, which was a game changer. By 2004, they've got 1 million subscribers. And just 3 years after that, they're the most valuable company in all of Canada. It was an absolute rocket ship. So what was their secret sauce? Well, it all boiled down to this killer combo, right? 3 things. First, that clicky, tactile keyboard that let you type lightning fast. Second, BBM, BlackBerry Messenger, their own private instant messaging club. And third, legendary security. It was so secure that businesses and governments wouldn't even consider using anything else. For years, BlackBerry looked unstoppable, absolutely untouchable. They had the corporate world in a headlock and a massive consumer following. But then, on one very specific day, a challenger walked onto a stage and showed the world something that would change, well, everything. And that day was January 7th, 2007. Steve Jobs gets on a stage and he unveils the very first iPhone. And right there, in that moment, the entire game was completely rewritten. BlackBerry just didn't quite know it yet. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. You had 2 totally different visions for the future. On one side, BlackBerry saw the phone as a serious business tool. It was all about the physical keyboard and secure email for the IT department. On the other side, Apple saw it as a fun consumer device, a toy even, built around a huge touchscreen, a universe of apps, and the real internet in your pocket. And this conflict, this fundamental disagreement, was happening right at the very top of the company. The engineer, Mike Lazaretti's, he saw the iPhone and he knew. He said, this is different. He knew Apple was good. But the businessman, Jim Bosilli, just brushed it off. It's okay, we'll be fine. That one little phrase, we'll be fine, that might just be the epitaph for the whole company. And the numbers? Well, the numbers don't lie. You can see it right here in black and white. Just as BlackBerry hits its absolute peak, the floor falls out. And at that exact same moment, the iPhone starts this relentless, unstoppable climb, blowing right past them. It's like watching 2 ships pass in the night, one heading up and one heading straight down. Okay, so we've seen what happened, but now for the big one, why? How did they let this massive lead just slip through their fingers? Well, it wasn't just one mistake. It was a cascade of fatal flaws and just bad moves. First, they completely underestimated Apple, calling the iPhone a toy. Then they totally missed the biggest shift in mobile history, the app revolution. By the time their app world came out, it was a joke compared to Apple's. Their first attempt at a touchscreen phone, the Storm, was a buggy disaster. And then the knockout punch, a massive global outage that shattered their biggest selling point, reliability. And you don't have to take my word for it. Just listen to what the actual users were saying. The App Store was a ghost town. The phones were so unstable you had to do the famous battery poll just to restart them. People felt like the company was obsessed with the keyboard and forgot to innovate anywhere else. And once iMessage came out, well, that was the last reason to stick around for a lot of people. From there, the corporate collapse was just swift and brutal. Their tablet, the Playbook, was a total flop. The original founders were forced out. A last-ditch effort with a new operating system, BlackBerry 10, just fizzled. And then finally, in 2016, they waved the white flag, announcing they were done. They would stop making their own phones forever. Now, for most companies, that's where the story ends, right? Fade to black, roll credits. A giant that's now just a memory. But this is where the BlackBerry story takes a really surprising turn. So in early 2022, it finally happened. The last nail in the coffin for the old BlackBerry. They officially shut down the network services, turning millions of the classic phones still out there into, well, paperweights. It was, officially, the end of an era. Or was it? Because here is the amazing twist. The company didn't actually die. It molted. It shed its old skin and completely transformed into something new. Today, BlackBerry is a global software company focused entirely on intelligent security for huge corporations and governments. So what is BlackBerry today? Well, forget phones. Their new identity is all about software, built on these four big pillars: automotive software, the Internet of Things, top-tier cybersecurity, and critical event management systems. And if you're wondering if these pivots actually worked, get ready for this. BlackBerry software is running in over 255 million vehicles on the road right now. So yeah, you might not be holding a BlackBerry anymore, but there's a really good chance you're driving one. So as we wrap this up, what do we take away from all this? When you look back at the whole crazy story, what is the real lasting legacy of BlackBerry? It's a powerful and kind of brutal lesson in innovation. Ultimately, the lesson is this. BlackBerry built a fortress for the business world, but they were completely blindsided by a consumer revolution happening right outside their walls. They thought the iPhone was a toy, but it turns out the future of technology was play. And they paid the ultimate price for that mistake. Which leaves us with one big lingering question. Which modern tech giant, sitting comfortably at the top today, is making that exact same mistake right now?